The neon sign outside Midnight Echo flickered like a dying heartbeat, casting crimson shadows across the rain-slicked pavement. I pressed myself against the brick wall, my breath coming in short gasps that misted in the November air. My hands trembled as I clutched my worn leather messenger bag, the weight of my sketchbook inside a familiar comfort against the unfamiliar terror coursing through my veins. 3 blocks. I'd seen him 3 blocks ago, that unmistakable silhouette that had haunted my nightmares for the past 6 months. Viktor Volkov, with his predatory gait and those ice-blue eyes that seemed to strip away every layer of protection I'd tried to build around myself. The restraining order might as well have been written on tissue paper for all the good it did. I'd changed my phone number 4 times, moved apartments twice, started taking different routes to the community center where I taught art classes to underprivileged kids. But somehow, he always found me. Always watching from across the street, always leaving those disturbing sketches of me sleeping, eating, teaching, living my life completely unaware of his invasive gaze. The bar's entrance yawned before me like a cave offering sanctuary. I'd never been inside Midnight Echo before. The place had a reputation, whispered about in the neighborhood as somewhere you went when you wanted to disappear, when you needed to conduct business that couldn't see daylight. But right now, I needed exactly that kind of anonymity. The heavy door swung shut behind me, muffling the sounds of the city. Inside, the air was thick with cigar smoke, and the musky scent of expensive cologne mixed with aged whiskey. Low lighting created pockets of shadow where figures huddled over drinks, their conversations barely audible beneath the sultry jazz drifting from hidden speakers. My eyes adjusted slowly to the dimness. The bar itself dominated the left wall, all dark wood and brass fixtures that gleamed dully in the amber light. Behind it stood a man who made my breath catch for entirely different reasons than fear. He was tall, easily 6'3", with broad shoulders that stretched the fabric of his black button-down shirt. The top 4 buttons were undone, revealing a glimpse of sculpted chest and the edge of what looked like a tattoo. His dark hair was styled with casual precision, and when he glanced up from the glass he was polishing, his eyes were the color of smoke and steel. Those eyes found mine across the room, and I felt the impact like a physical touch. There was an intensity there, a sharp intelligence that seemed to take in everything about me in a single sweep. For a moment, I forgot why I was there, forgot the danger lurking outside, forgot everything except the way this stranger was looking at me. Then the door behind me opened, and cold air swept across my back like skeletal fingers. I didn't need to turn around to know who had entered. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, my body recognizing the threat before my mind could process it. Panic surged through me, hot and desperate. I couldn't let Viktor corner me here, couldn't let him get close enough to touch me again like he had that night outside the grocery store, his fingers tangling in my hair as he whispered how beautiful I looked when I was afraid. My feet carried me forward before I could think, weaving between tables toward the bar, toward the man with smoke-colored eyes, who watched my approach with curiosity, sharpening into something more alert. "Please," I breathed as I reached the bar, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need you to pretend you know me. Just for a minute. Please." The bartender's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his gaze. He set down the glass and the cloth with deliberate care, then leaned forward slightly, closing the distance between us. "What's your name?" His voice was deep, smooth as aged bourbon, with the faintest hint of an accent I couldn't quite place. Tessa Morgan. Tyler Blackwood." He extended his hand across the bar, and when I placed mine in his fingers closed around it with surprising gentleness. "And who are we pretending I'm not a stranger to you for, Tessa?" Before I could answer, I felt rather than heard Viktor's approach. The air seemed to grow colder, heavier. Tyler's eyes flickered past me, and his entire demeanor changed. The casual bartender vanished, replaced by something harder, more dangerous. His hand tightened infinitesimally on mine. "Tessa." Viktor's voice slithered across my name like oil on water. "I've been looking for you." My whole body went rigid. Tyler's thumb stroked across my knuckles, a gesture so intimate and reassuring that I almost believed we actually knew each other. "Babe," Tyler said, his voice carrying easily across the space between us and Viktor. You forgot your phone at my place this morning." He reached beneath the bar and produced a sleek black phone, sliding it across to me. It wasn't mine, but I took it anyway, grateful for the prop that made our charade more believable. I forced myself to turn, to face the nightmare that had been chasing me. Victor stood 3 feet away, his pale eyes fixed on me with that unsettling intensity that made my skin crawl. He was handsome in a cold, classical way. Sharp cheekbones, platinum blonde hair swept back from his forehead, lips that curved into what might have been a smile on anyone else, but looked predatory on him. "I wasn't aware you were seeing anyone," Victor said, his accent thickening with barely suppressed anger. Russian, I'd learned during one of my many late-night research sessions trying to understand who was stalking me. Viktor Volkov, owner of several import-export businesses that operated in the gray areas of legality. "That's because it's none of your business," I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Tyler's presence behind me felt like a wall of solid strength, giving me courage I didn't normally possess around Victor. Victor's smile grew sharper. "Everything about you is my business, Tessa. You know that." The lady's made it clear she's not interested. Tyler's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Multiple times, from what I understand. There's a legal term for what you're doing. Several of them, actually." For the first time since I'd met him, I saw something like uncertainty flicker across Victor's face. His eyes moved from me to Tyler, reassessing. The bar around us had grown quieter, conversations dying away as the other patrons sensed the shift in atmosphere. Several men who'd been scattered throughout the room had moved closer, their attention focused on our interaction with the kind of alertness that suggested they were more than just casual customers. "You don't know what you're interfering with," Victor said, his voice dropping to something close to a growl. Tyler released my hand and moved around the bar with fluid grace. He positioned himself between me and Victor, his posture deceptively casual despite the obvious threat in every line of his body. "I know exactly what I'm interfering with," Tyler replied, his tone conversational but laced with steel. "Question is, do you know who you're threatening?" The two men stared at each other, and I found myself holding my breath. The air between them crackled with violence barely restrained. Then Victor's lips curved into something that might have been a smile, but looked more like a snarl. "This isn't over, Tessa," he said, his eyes finding mine over Tyler's shoulder. "We have unfinished business, you and I." "The only business you have is with a court-ordered distance of 500 feet, Tyler said. "I suggest you start walking, now." For a long moment I thought Victor would refuse. Thought the simmering violence in the air would explode into something physical and terrifying. Then Victor took a step back, then another, his eyes never leaving mine until he finally turned and stalked toward the door. The moment it closed behind him, my legs gave out. Tyler caught me before I hit the floor, his arms solid and surprisingly gentle as he guided me onto a bar stool. "Easy," he murmured. "Just breathe. You're safe." But as I looked up into his smoke-gray eyes, I wondered if safe was really the right word for what I was. Tyler poured amber liquid into a glass and set it in front of me. "Drink. You look like you're about to pass out." My hand shook as I lifted the glass. The whiskey burned going down, but the warmth spreading through my chest helped ground me back in reality. I'd just involved a complete stranger in my nightmare. A stranger who'd stepped between me and Victor without hesitation, who'd claimed me as his with such conviction that even Victor had backed down. "I'm sorry," I managed, setting the glass down with a clink. "I shouldn't have dragged you into this. I just saw him and I panicked and you were here and I—" "How long has he been stalking you?" Tyler interrupted, his voice calm but his eyes sharp as they studied my face. 6 months, maybe longer." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warmth of the bar. I don't know when it actually started. I just know when I first noticed him. Outside my classroom window at the community center, then outside my apartment, then everywhere. Tyler's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "You have a restraining order?" "For all the good it does. He's careful. Never quite breaks it in ways the police can prove. He sends things to my P.O. box instead of my home. Watches from across the street, just outside the 500-foot limit. Shows up at public places I frequent, but claims it's coincidence. My voice cracked. 3 weeks ago, he left a sketch on my car. Me sleeping in my bed. He'd been inside my apartment. Something dangerous flickered in Tyler's eyes. He pulled out his phone and typed something quickly, then turned back to me with that same intense focus. Viktor Volkov, he said, and it wasn't a question. Owns Volkov Imports. Has his hands in shipping, real estate, and probably half a dozen other ventures that don't show up on any official paperwork. I stared at him. How do you know? I make it my business to know who operates in this city. Tyler leaned against the bar, his arms crossed over his chest. Especially the ones who cause problems. Victor's been on my radar for a while now, but not because of stalking charges. There was something in the way he said it. Something that made me really look at him for the first time beyond the immediate sanctuary he'd offered. The expensive watch on his wrist. The way the other men in the bar deferred to him with subtle nods and careful distances. The ease with which he'd faced down Victor, as if he was used to dealing with dangerous men. You're not just a bartender, are you? Tyler's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. No, I'm not. Before I could process that revelation, the door opened again. My whole body tensed, but it wasn't Victor. It was a woman, late 20s, with sharp features and intelligent dark eyes. She crossed directly to the bar, her gaze flickering to me with curiosity before settling on Tyler. He's gone, she reported. But he's got 2 men watching the front entrance. One in a black sedan across the street, another on foot pretending to smoke a cigarette on the corner. My stomach dropped. Of course Victor wouldn't just leave. He never did. Thank you, Sophia. Tyler's attention returned to me. Tessa, this is Sophia Chen. She handles security for the establishment. Sophia, this is Tessa Morgan. She's going to be staying here for a while. I am? The words came out higher than I intended. Unless you'd prefer to go out there and face Volkov and his men alone. Tyler raised an eyebrow. He knows you came in here. He knows you claim to be with me. Walking out now would be dangerous in ways you don't want to contemplate. He was right, but the thought of staying here, in this place that clearly operated in the same shadows Victor did, made my pulse race for entirely different reasons. I have a class tomorrow morning, I said weakly. Kids who count on me. Call in sick. Tyler pulled out his phone again, but this time he handed it to me. Tell them you have the flu, then give me the address of your apartment. Why? Because Victor's been inside once. He'll be inside again tonight if we don't make sure that doesn't happen. Tyler's voice was matter of fact, but his eyes held something almost like concern. Sophia will send a team to secure your place and pack you a bag. You'll stay in one of the rooms upstairs until we figure out what to do about your Victor problem. My Victor problem, I repeated, almost laughing at the absurdity. He's not my anything. No, Tyler agreed, and something in his tone made me look up sharply. But he's about to become mine. Before I could ask what he meant, my actual phone buzzed in my messenger bag. I pulled it out, and my blood ran cold. A text from an unknown number, but I knew who it was from. I always knew. You chose poorly tonight, Tessa. That man can't protect you. No one can. You belong to me. Tyler plucked the phone from my nerveless fingers, his eyes scanning the message. His expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. How many of these do you get? Dozens. Every day. Different numbers. Always different numbers. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. I've shown them to the police. They say they're troubling, but not technically threatening. No explicit statements of intent to harm. They're threatening, Tyler said flatly. He held up the phone. May I? I nodded, past the point of caring about privacy. Tyler's fingers moved swiftly over the screen, doing something I couldn't see. Then he handed it back to me. I've installed a tracking and recording app. Every text, every call, every interaction gets documented and backed up to a secure server. If he escalates, we'll have evidence, even if he destroys your phone. Who are you? The question burst out of me. Really? Tyler was quiet for a moment, studying me with those smoke-gray eyes that seemed to see too much. Then he made a decision. I could see it happen in the subtle shift of his expression. I own this bar and several other businesses in the city. Some legal, some operating in gray areas that would make your restraining order look like a suggestion. His voice was calm, almost clinical. I have resources and connections that can help you in ways the police can't or won't. And I have a very personal interest in bringing down Viktor Volkov. Why? I whispered. Because 7 months ago, my sister disappeared. 23 years old, art student at the university, last seen leaving a gallery opening in the downtown district. Tyler's voice remained level, but I caught the flash of pain in his eyes. 3 witnesses reported seeing her get into a black sedan with a blonde man, a man matching Viktor Volkov's description. The room seemed to tilt. Your sister is still missing, along with 4 other young women who've disappeared in this city over the past year. All of them artists, students, creatives. All of them last seen with or near Viktor or his associates. Tyler's hands clenched into fists. The police say there's not enough evidence to investigate him, that the girls probably just left town, ran away, started new lives. But you don't believe that. I know better. His eyes locked with mine, and I saw the steel beneath the surface, the ruthlessness that came from a man who'd walked through hell searching for someone he loved. Viktor Volkov isn't just a stalker, Tessa. He's part of something much bigger and much darker. And you've caught his attention. Which means you're in more danger than you realize. My throat felt tight. What are you saying? I'm saying that your stalker and my sister's kidnapper are the same man. I'm saying that you being here tonight, claiming to be with me, that might be the opening I've been waiting for. If Viktor thinks you're important to me, he'll make a move. And when he does, you'll be waiting, I finished, understanding dawning with sickening clarity. You want to use me as bait. Tyler didn't deny it. I want to protect you. But yes, your connection to Viktor, combined with your supposed connection to me, creates an opportunity. One I intend to exploit. I should have been angry, should have been terrified. But instead, I thought about those other girls. About Tyler's sister, probably scared and alone somewhere. About my own students, young and vulnerable. Any one of them potentially Viktor's next target. What do you need me to do? Tyler's expression shifted, something like respect entering his gaze. Right now? Stay here. Stay safe. Let me and my people handle the immediate security concerns. Tomorrow we'll talk about the rest. Sophia appeared at my elbow with a gentle touch. Come on, I'll show you upstairs. The room has its own bathroom, and I'll bring you something to eat. You look dead on your feet. She was right. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me shaky and exhausted. I slid off the bar stool, my legs uncertain beneath me. Tessa. Tyler's voice stopped me as Sophia began to guide me toward a door behind the bar. You're safe here. I promise you that. I nodded, not trusting my voice. As I followed Sophia through the door and up a narrow staircase, I heard Tyler's voice behind me, low and intense as he spoke into his phone. Get me everything we have on Volkov's movements over the past 6 months, cross-reference with Tessa Morgan's address, workplace, and known locations. I want to know every time he was near her, every pattern, every deviation. And send Marcus to secure her apartment. If Volkov's been inside once, there might be cameras, bugs, something we can use. The words faded as we climbed higher, but they echoed in my mind. I'd walked into Midnight Echo looking for a moment's sanctuary from a stalker. Instead, I'd stumbled into something far more dangerous and complex than I'd imagined. But as I settled into the surprisingly comfortable room Sophia showed me, as I heard the click of a lock that meant I was secure for the first time in months, I realized something else. For the first time since Viktor had entered my life, I wasn't alone in this fight. And that changed everything. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains and the smell of coffee. For a blissful moment, I forgot where I was. Then reality crashed back, and I sat up abruptly, my heart pounding until I recognized the room from the night before. Midnight Echo, Tyler Blackwood, Viktor's men watching the entrance. All of it real. My phone showed 6 missed calls from the community center, and a text from my supervisor asking if I was okay. I called in with a hoarse voice that didn't require much acting, claiming a terrible flu. The lie tasted bitter, but what was I supposed to say? Sorry, I can't come in because the man stalking me escalated and I'm hiding in a bar owned by what I'm pretty sure is a crime boss. A soft knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Sophia entered carrying a tray with coffee, toast, and what looked like scrambled eggs. Tyler thought you might be hungry, she said, setting the tray on the small table by the window. How'd you sleep? Better than I have in months, I admitted. It was true. Knowing someone was actively guarding the door had allowed me to sink into sleep in a way I hadn't managed since Victor's surveillance had become impossible to ignore. Sophia smiled, transforming her severe features into something almost warm. Good. That's good. She hesitated, then sat in the chair across from me. Tyler asked me to brief you on what we found last night. My stomach tightened. What did you find? Your apartment had 3 cameras. One in the bedroom, hidden in the smoke detector. One in the bathroom behind the mirror. One in the living room, inside the cable box. Sophia's voice was clinical, but her eyes held sympathy. We removed them all. Also found a GPS tracker on your car and another sewn into the lining of your winter coat. The toast I'd just swallowed turned to ash in my mouth. The coat I wore yesterday? Yes. He's been tracking your exact location, probably for months. Listening to your conversations, watching you in your most private moments. Sophia leaned forward. Tessa, this goes way beyond stalking. This is preparation. He's been building a detailed profile of your life, your habits, your vulnerabilities. Preparation for what? We don't know yet. But Tyler has a theory, and he wants to discuss it with you this morning. Are you up for that? I wanted to say no. Wanted to crawl back into bed and pretend none of this was happening. But I thought about those cameras, about Victor watching me change clothes, shower, sleep, watching and planning something I couldn't even imagine. Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm up for it. 20 minutes later, I found myself in an office I hadn't known existed, accessed through a door at the end of the upstairs hallway. The space was unexpected. All dark wood and leather with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and a massive desk that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of mahogany. Tyler sat behind that desk, looking every inch the powerful businessman rather than the bartender I'd met the night before. He wore a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with ink I hadn't noticed in the bar's dim lighting. Tattoos that looked like they told stories I probably didn't want to know. Tessa. He gestured to the chair across from him. Thank you for coming. I know yesterday was overwhelming. Overwhelming is one word for it. I sank into the offered chair, noting the way my hand still trembled slightly. Sophia told me about the cameras, the trackers. I'm sorry. And he actually sounded it, his eyes softening in a way that made him seem younger, more human. No one should have to live with that kind of invasion. But it's useful to you, I said, surprising myself with the bitterness in my tone. Isn't it? Proof that Victor's obsessed with me, that he'll make a move if he thinks I'm important to you. Tyler didn't flinch from my accusation. Yes, it's useful, but that doesn't mean I'm not genuinely sorry it happened to you. He pulled a folder from his desk drawer and slid it across to me. Inside were photographs, documents, what looked like surveillance reports. My hands shook as I opened it. The first photo punched the air from my lungs. A young woman with dark hair and Tyler's gray eyes, laughing at something off camera, her hand raised to push hair from her face. Beautiful, vibrant, alive. My sister, Elena, Tyler said quietly. Taken 2 weeks before she disappeared. I flipped through more photos. Elena at a gallery opening, Elena with friends, Elena painting in what looked like a studio apartment. Then the photos changed. Security footage, grainy and time-stamped. Elena leaving a building, a black sedan pulling up beside her, a blonde man emerging. The images were too unclear to identify features definitively, but my body recognized Victor's movements, that predatory grace he moved with. The police said it wasn't enough for a warrant, Tyler continued, his voice tight with controlled rage. Said we couldn't prove it was Volkov, couldn't prove Elena didn't go willingly. More photos. Other young women, different faces but similar types. All in their 20s, all creative, artistic, all missing. These are the other disappearances? I asked. 4 others in this city. But when I started digging deeper, looking at national databases, I found a pattern. 23 young women across 6 states, all disappearing over the past 3 years. All of them artists, students, creatives, all last seen in areas where Volkov or his associates were doing business. My mouth went dry. You think he's part of a trafficking ring? I don't think, I know. Tyler pulled out another document, this one covered in names, dates, connections drawn between them in red ink. Viktor Volkov is a middleman. He identifies targets, grooms them, prepares them, and then delivers them to a larger network. His import-export business? It's the perfect cover for moving human cargo across international borders. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the desk, focusing on breathing. The police won't move without concrete evidence. Evidence that's nearly impossible to obtain when you're dealing with someone as careful as Volkov. Someone with enough money and connections to cover his tracks. Tyler's eyes met mine, and I saw the pain there, the helplessness of a man who'd run into walls at every turn. But you're different, Tessa. You're his obsession. He's been careless with you in ways he wasn't with the others. The cameras, the trackers, the constant contact. He wants you specifically, personally. That's not his usual pattern. Why me? The question came out barely above a whisper. I don't know yet. But whatever the reason, it means he'll take risks for you he wouldn't take for others. And that's our opportunity. I looked down at Elena's photo again, at her vibrant smile frozen in time. Somewhere she might still be alive, scared, suffering, praying someone would find her, along with 22 other women who'd been stolen from their lives. What do you need me to do? I asked, echoing my words from the night before. Tyler stood, moving around the desk to lean against it, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. I need you to let Viktor think we're together. Really together. I'll arrange for us to be seen around the city, at places he'll notice. Restaurants, galleries, events. We'll create a narrative that you're important to me, that touching you means going through me. And when he makes his move, we'll be ready. I have people, resources, connections. When Viktor acts, we'll follow the chain back to wherever he's keeping those women. Tyler's jaw tightened. And we'll burn his entire operation to the ground. It was crazy, dangerous, probably illegal in about a dozen different ways. But I thought about Elena, about the other missing women, about the fact that I could have been one of them if Viktor's obsession hadn't made him sloppy, hadn't driven him to stalk rather than simply take. I have conditions, I heard myself say. Tyler's eyebrow rose. Such as? First, my students. They need to be protected. Viktor knows where I work, and some of them are exactly his type. Young, artistic, vulnerable. I won't be responsible for putting them in danger. Agreed. I'll have security on the community center. Discreet, but present. Second, I want to be involved in everything. No decisions about me without me. If I'm going to be bait, I deserve to know the entire plan. Tyler studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Reasonable. What else? If this works, if we find your sister and those other women, you help me disappear. New identity, new city, whatever it takes. Because Viktor won't stop. And even if he goes to prison, he'll have people. There's always people. Something flickered in Tyler's eyes, an emotion I couldn't quite identify. If that's what you want, yes. I'll make sure you can start over somewhere safe. Then we have a deal. I extended my hand across the desk, mimicking the gesture Tyler had made the night before. His hand enveloped mine, warm and calloused and surprisingly gentle. Partners? Partners, I agreed, though the word felt inadequate for what we were actually agreeing to. We were entering into a dangerous dance with a predator, using my life as the music to draw him out. Tyler's thumb brushed across my knuckles, and I felt a jolt of something that wasn't quite fear. His eyes held mine, And in that moment, I realized that this man was dangerous in his own right. Not in Victor's sick, twisted way, but in the way of someone who knew exactly who he was and what he was capable of. "There's something you should know," Tyler said, still holding my hand. "When we're out there in public, we'll need to be convincing. Touching, closeness, intimacy. It has to look real." My pulse quickened. "I understand. Do you?" His voice had dropped lower, intimate in a way that made my breath catch. "Because Victor will be watching everything. Every interaction, every glance, every moment. If he senses this is fake, it won't work." "I'm an art teacher, not an actress," I admitted. "But I'll do my best." Tyler smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face from merely handsome to devastating. "Lucky for you, the best way to fake chemistry is to not fake it at all." Before I could process that statement, he released my hand and straightened, the moment of intimacy passing like smoke. "We start tonight. There's a gallery opening in Soho, very public, very visible, exactly the kind of place Victor will expect you to be interested in. Sophia will help you get ready." His expression sobered. "And Tessa? From this moment on, you don't go anywhere without security. Victor's men are still watching the building. They'll follow us, and that's fine. That's part of the plan. But I won't risk him grabbing you when you're alone." "I'm not used to living like this," I said softly. "I know. But until this is over, your life isn't your own. It belongs to the plan, to finding those women, to staying alive long enough to see this through." His eyes held mine. "Can you handle that? Could I? Could I surrender my independence, my privacy, my normal life to become something else entirely? Could I trust this man I'd known for less than 24 hours, with not just my safety, but with pretending to be something we weren't?" I thought about Elena's smile, frozen in that photograph, about 22 other smiles, other lives, other families wondering and waiting and hoping. "Yes," I said, "I can handle it." The gallery opening was exactly the kind of event I used to love. Soaring white walls showcasing bold contemporary pieces, clusters of well-dressed people discussing technique and vision over champagne, the electric buzz of creativity and commerce intersecting. Now, knowing Victor was watching from somewhere in the crowd, every moment felt like walking a tightrope over an abyss. Tyler's hand rested at the small of my back, a touch that looked casual but radiated possession. He'd dressed me for this. Or rather, Sophia had delivered a dress that he'd selected. Deep emerald silk that draped elegantly, modest but undeniably sensual. Paired with simple jewelry that I recognized as real, despite their understated appearance. Everything about my presentation tonight screamed that I belonged to someone with means, with power, with the ability to protect what was his. "Relax," Tyler murmured, his lips close to my ear. To anyone watching, it looked like an intimate moment between lovers. "You're too stiff. Remember, we're supposed to be enjoying ourselves." "There's a man who's been stalking me for 6 months somewhere in this room," I whispered back. "Relaxing isn't exactly easy." "I know exactly where he is. 11 o'clock, standing near the abstract installation, wearing a gray suit. He's been watching us since we arrived." Tyler's hand pressed more firmly against my back, guiding me toward a painting that would position us in Victor's direct line of sight. 2 of his men are positioned by the exits. Another is pretending to admire the sculpture garden outside. We have 4 times as many people here. I risked a glance in Victor's direction. He stood perfectly still, a champagne flute in his hand that he hadn't touched, his ice-blue eyes locked on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Even from across the room, I could feel his rage, his sense of ownership being challenged. "He looks ready to kill someone," I breathed. "Good." Tyler turned me to face a painting, positioning himself behind me, his chest against my back, his arms coming around me to point at something in the artwork. To observers, we were a couple absorbed in appreciating art together. In reality, Tyler was creating a cage of his body around mine, both shielding and claiming, "That's exactly what we want. Angry men make mistakes." His breath stirred my hair, and despite everything, despite the danger and the pretense and the stalker watching our every move, I felt a flutter of something in my stomach that had nothing to do with fear. Tell me about the painting, Tyler said, his voice pitched for my ears alone. Make it real. I focused on the canvas before us, a riot of colors that seemed to move and breathe. It's a Kowalski, I said softly. Abstract expressionist, but there's structure beneath the chaos if you know how to look. See how the red creates a path through the composition? It's guiding your eye, giving you a journey to follow, even though at first glance it seems completely random. Like life, Tyler observed, and I felt him shift slightly, his cheek brushing against my temple. Chaos with hidden patterns. Exactly. I found myself relaxing despite myself, falling into the familiar comfort of discussing art. Most people miss it. They see the surface and think there's nothing more. But the artist knew exactly what they were doing. Every stroke is intentional, even the ones that look accidental. And you, Tyler said, turning me to face him, his hands coming to rest on my waist. Are you intentional or accidental, Tessa Morgan? The question caught me off guard. We were still acting, I reminded myself. This was all part of the show, but something in his eyes suggested he actually wanted an answer. Both, I admitted. I plan my lessons. I structure my days. But the best moments in art, in life, happen when you let go of control and see what emerges. Tyler smiled, that devastating smile that made him look younger, more genuine. I'm learning that. He leaned in, and for a heart-stopping moment, I thought he was going to kiss me. Instead, his lips brushed my cheek, a gesture of affection that would read as restrained intimacy to anyone watching. His mouth moved to my ear. He's moving, coming this way. My body tensed automatically, but Tyler's hands tightened on my waist. Stay calm, I've got you. Victor's voice cut through the ambient gallery noise like a knife. Tessa, I didn't know you'd be here tonight. Tyler turned us both, keeping me close, his arm now wrapped around my waist. Volkov? He acknowledged, his tone carefully neutral. Small world. Not so small when you're following someone, Victor replied, his eyes never leaving me. His smile was cold, predatory. I come to this gallery often. It's one of my favorites. Tessa knows that, don't you, darling? The endearment made my skin crawl, but before I could respond, Tyler spoke. I'm sure Miss Morgan's tastes in galleries, like her tastes in company, have evolved recently. Victor's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the fury beneath. Tessa and I have a connection, something special, something that can't be replaced by mere infatuation with a bartender. I'm sure you'd like to think so, Tyler said, his voice dangerously soft. But Miss Morgan has made her preferences clear. Several times, in fact, including through legal channels. Legal channels can be circumvented, Victor replied, taking a step closer. His cologne wafted over us, expensive and cloying. Restraining orders are just paper. They don't change what's real between Tessa and me. What's real is harassment and stalking, I found my voice, surprising myself with its steadiness. What's real is that I want nothing to do with you, Victor. I've never wanted anything to do with you. Victor's eyes flashed. You don't mean that. You're confused, influenced by him. He gestured dismissively at Tyler. You need time to remember who you really belong with. She belongs with whoever she chooses, Tyler said, and there was steel in his voice now. And she's chosen. Respect that, or there will be consequences. Consequences? Victor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You think you can threaten me? You have no idea what you're dealing with, Blackwood. Don't I? Tyler's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air around us. I know exactly what you are, Volkov. I know about your import business and what you really import. I know about the shipping routes and the warehouses. I know about the young women who've disappeared, and I know about your role in making them disappear. Victor went very still. Careful, he said softly. Accusations like that can be dangerous. So can stalking an artist who happens to be under my protection, Tyler countered. You've crossed a line, Victor. Multiple lines. The question is whether you're smart enough to step back before this escalates into something you can't control. For a long moment, The two men stared at each other, and I felt like I was watching two predators sizing each other up. The gallery had grown quieter around us, other patrons sensing the tension and giving us space. Then Victor smiled, that cold, predatory smile that never reached his eyes. "This isn't over," he said, looking directly at me. "Not even close. Enjoy your new pet, Tessa. But remember that pets can be taken away. All it takes is the right moment, the right opportunity." He turned and walked away, his men falling into formation around him as he exited the gallery. The moment he was gone, I sagged against Tyler, my legs suddenly unreliable. "Breathe," Tyler murmured, supporting my weight easily. "You did perfectly. Better than perfectly." "He threatened me," I said, my voice shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "Right here, in front of everyone. He threatened me." "Yes, he did, and witnesses heard it." Tyler guided me toward a quieter corner of the gallery. "That's going to be useful." "Useful?" I pulled away from him, suddenly angry. "He just told me he's planning to take me, to kidnap me, and you think that's useful?" "I think it's proof that our plan is working," Tyler said calmly. "He's rattled, angry, making threats he wouldn't normally make in such a public setting. Men who are in control don't do that, Tessa. Men who are losing control do." "And what happens when he decides to act on those threats? What happens when he stops talking and starts doing?" Tyler's expression softened. "That's when we'll be ready. That's when he leads us to the others." My anger deflated as quickly as it had flared, because he was right. Victor's threat meant he was planning something, and that planning would involve his network, his resources, his connections to whatever larger operation was holding Elena and the other women. "I'm scared," I admitted quietly. "You should be. Fear keeps you alert, keeps you careful." Tyler reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture that seemed both natural and calculated. "But you're not alone in this. I meant what I said about protecting you." "Why?" The question emerged before I could stop it. "You barely know me. Why risk everything for someone you met yesterday?" Tyler was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes searching my face. "Because my sister is out there somewhere, probably terrified, definitely suffering, and every day that passes is another day she's in danger. You're my best chance of finding her, yes. But that doesn't mean I'm willing to sacrifice you to do it. Even if sacrificing me meant getting her back faster? Even then." His hand cupped my cheek, and this time I was almost certain it wasn't just for show. "I'm not Victor, Tessa. I don't see people as tools to be used and discarded. You matter. Your safety matters. Not just because you're useful, but because you're a person who deserves protection." I wanted to believe him. Desperately wanted to believe that this wasn't just another form of manipulation, that Tyler Blackwood was different from Victor Volkov in ways that mattered. "We should go," Tyler said, breaking the moment. "We've been seen together. We've provoked Victor. We've established our relationship publicly. That's enough for tonight." As we left the gallery, Tyler's arm around my shoulders and his security team surrounding us in a loose formation, I couldn't shake Victor's final words. Pets can be taken away. All it takes is the right moment, the right opportunity. He was planning something soon. And despite Tyler's promises of protection, despite the armed men surrounding us, I knew in my bones that Victor always got what he wanted in the end. The question was whether we'd be ready when he made his move, or whether I'd become just another name in Tyler's red-inked diagram of missing women. 3 days after the gallery opening, life had settled into a surreal new normal. I stayed in the apartment above Midnight Echo, taught my classes via video call under Sophia's watchful presence, and spent my evenings playing the role of Tyler Blackwood's girlfriend in carefully orchestrated public appearances. Dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant where Victor's men photographed us from across the street. A weekend afternoon at a farmer's market where Tyler held my hand and bought me fresh flowers, while Victor himself watched from a coffee shop patio. A movie premiere where Tyler's arm stayed possessively around my waist, and Victor's presence in the theater was confirmed by his signature cologne 3 rows behind us. Each encounter was a move in an elaborate chess game, and I was beginning to understand that Tyler was a far more sophisticated player than I'd initially realized. "Tell me something real," I said one evening as we sat in his office after another public outing. The pretense of our relationship had started to blur into something that felt uncomfortably authentic, and I needed to reestablish boundaries. Something that's not part of the act. Tyler looked up from the surveillance reports he'd been reviewing. "What do you want to know?" "Why this life? You're clearly intelligent, capable. You could have done anything. Why choose to operate in the shadows?" He was quiet for a long moment, then set aside his papers. "My father was a cop, 20 years on the force, honest as they come. When I was 16, he stumbled onto a corruption ring that went all the way to the top. Judges, commissioners, politicians, all of them taking money from the Volkov family and others like them." My breath caught. "Victor's family?" "Victor's uncle, actually. Victor was just a teenager himself back then, being groomed to take over the family business." Tyler's voice was flat, emotionless, but I heard the pain underneath. "My father tried to go through proper channels. Reported what he'd found to internal affairs, to the DA, to everyone he thought he could trust. They buried it. And then they buried him." "They killed him?" "Made it look like suicide. Left my mother to raise 3 kids on a widow's pension and a tarnished reputation." Tyler's hands clenched into fists. "I learned then that the system doesn't work when the system itself is corrupted. So I built something outside the system, something that could fight fire, with fire." "And Elena? Your sister?" Pain flashed across his face. "She was 14 when our father died. Took it hard, started acting out. Went through a rough period in her teens, but eventually found her way through art. Got into university, started to heal. I thought she was safe." His voice cracked slightly. "I thought I'd protected her by building my empire, by making sure our family was untouchable. But Victor found her anyway. Took her anyway." I reached across the desk, covering his clenched fist with my hand. "We'll find her. Will we?" Tyler's eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw real doubt there. "It's been 7 months, Tessa. 7 months of searching, investigating, calling in favors. Every lead goes cold. Every trail disappears. What if we're too late? What if—" "Don't." I squeezed his hand. "Don't go there. Hope is all we have." Tyler turned his hand over, intertwining his fingers with mine. "You're stronger than you look, Tessa Morgan. I've had practice pretending to be strong. 6 months of being stalked teaches you how to fake it. That's not fake strength. That's real strength pretending to be fake." He stood, coming around the desk, still holding my hand. "You're remarkable, you know that?" I'm terrified constantly and barely holding it together. "Yes," he agreed. "And still teaching your classes, still functioning, still fighting. That's what remarkable looks like." The space between us felt charged, electric. This was supposed to be an act, a performance for Victor's benefit. But there were no cameras here, no audience, just Tyler and me and something that felt increasingly less like pretense. His phone rang, shattering the moment. Tyler answered it, his expression shifting from personal to professional in an instant. "Talk to me." I watched as his face hardened, his jaw clenching. "When? How many of them? No, don't move yet. I'm on my way." He hung up and immediately began pulling on his jacket. "There's been a development. Victor made a move, but not the one we expected." "What happened?" "He didn't come after you. He grabbed another girl. Art student, 22, matches his usual profile. Witnesses say she got into a black sedan 2 hours ago near the University District." My stomach dropped. "Oh God." Marcus tracked the vehicle to a warehouse in the industrial district. It's one of Victor's properties, registered under a shell company. Tyler was moving now, all business, checking a weapon I hadn't known he was carrying. "This is it, Tessa. This is the opening we've been waiting for." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You stay here where it's safe." "Like hell I do." I stood facing him down. "You said I was part of this. that I deserve to be involved in everything. A girl is missing, Tyler, right now. And if there's any chance Elena and the others are in that warehouse, which is exactly why you're staying here. If this goes wrong, if Victor has a trap set, I won't risk you. And I won't sit here wondering if today was the day you found your sister and I wasn't there. If today was the day we saved those women, and I hid in safety while other people took the risks. I grabbed my jacket. I'm an artist, Tyler. I know Victor's type. I might see something you'd miss, notice something that matters. Tyler stared at me, frustration, and something like admiration warring in his expression. You're not trained for this. If shooting starts, then I'll stay behind your very large, very armed security team. But I'm coming. For a moment I thought he'd refuse, would have Sophia lock me in my room. Then he nodded curtly. Stay close. Do exactly what I say, when I say it. Any hesitation could get people killed. 20 minutes later, I was crouched behind a concrete barrier outside a warehouse that looked abandoned, but wasn't. Tyler's team had surrounded the building, professionals moving with military precision. Through the grimy windows, I could see lights inside. Movement. 3 heat signatures on the second floor, Marcus reported, studying a tablet. 2 more on the ground floor near the east entrance. No sign of prisoners, but there's a basement level our scans can't penetrate. That's where they'll be, Tyler said, his voice cold and certain. Underground, soundproofed. The upper floors are just lookouts. How do you want to play this? Sophia asked, checking her weapon. Hard and fast. I want those guards neutralized before they can make a call or destroy evidence. Sophia, take your team through the east entrance. Marcus, west side. I'll go through the roof access. And her? Marcus gestured to me. Tyler looked at me, and I saw him make a decision. She comes with me. If Elena and the others are down there, Tessa being the first face they see might make the difference between cooperation and panic. We moved into position, Tyler's hand on my back guiding me toward a fire escape that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. As we climbed, I heard the soft clicks and whispers of his team communicating through earpieces. Remember, Tyler murmured as we reached the roof access. Stay behind me. If I tell you to run, you run. Understood? I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was real. This was actually happening. In minutes, we might find Elena, might save those women, might end Victor's operation. Or we might walk into a trap and none of us would walk out again. Tyler's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He showed it to me, and my blood ran cold. Looking for something, Blackwood? Or should I say someone? Come inside. Let's talk about trade. Your artist for mine. You have 1 hour. Below the text was a photo that made my world stop. My niece, Lily. 15 years old, artistic, beautiful. Tied to a chair in a concrete room, terror in her eyes. Oh God, I breathed. Oh God, that's Lily. That's my niece. Tyler, he has my niece. Tyler's expression went deadly calm. When did you last talk to her? This morning. She was supposed to be at school, then going to her friend Maya's house. How did he? But I knew how. Victor had been watching me for months. He knew about Lily, knew she was the one person I'd trade myself for without hesitation. It's a trap, Sophia said, appearing beside us. He's trying to force your hand. It's working, I said, my voice shaking. I'll go. I'll trade myself. Just please, get Lily out. No. Tyler's hand gripped my arm. That's exactly what he wants. You go in there, he has leverage over both of us. She's 15. My voice cracked. She's a child, Tyler. I won't let her die because of me. Tyler pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. We're going to get her out. Both of them. Elena, Lily, all of them. But we do it smart, not desperate. How? He gave us an hour. Then we have 58 minutes to find another way in. Tyler's eyes hardened. Marcus, thermal sweep the entire building again. Find me every entrance, every weakness. Sophia, get on the phone with Detective Donovan. I don't care about jurisdictions or warrants. Tell her we have confirmation of kidnapping and human trafficking, and we need backup now. As his team moved into action, Tyler turned back to me. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I looked into his gray eyes and saw the same desperation I felt, the same willingness to do whatever it took to save someone he loved. and I realized that somewhere along the way, I had started to trust him. Really trust him. Yes, I whispered. I trust you. Good. He kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt both comforting and devastating. Because we're about to walk into hell, and I need you with me every step. The basement entrance was hidden behind a false wall in the warehouse's loading dock. Marcus found it using ground-penetrating radar, a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Tyler went first, his weapon drawn, moving with the fluid grace of someone who'd done this before. I followed close behind, my heart in my throat, every breath a prayer. Please let Lily be okay. Please let Elena be alive. Please don't let this be too late. The stairs opened into a corridor lit by bare bulbs, concrete walls sweating with moisture. I could hear voices ahead, one of them Victor's distinctive accent. Tyler held up a hand, signaling me to stop. Through a partially open door, I could see into a large room. Lily sat in the chair from the photo, her face streaked with tears but unmarked. Thank God. Beside her stood Victor, his hand resting on her shoulder in a possessive gesture that made my blood boil. And against the far wall, chained to exposed pipes, were 4 other young women. Elena was one of them. Tyler's sharp intake of breath told me he'd spotted his sister. Elena looked thin, haunted, but alive. Her dark hair hung limply around her face, and her eyes held a hollowness that spoke of suffering I couldn't imagine. Time's up, Blackwood, Victor called. I know you're out there. I can hear you breathing. Come in. Let's talk like civilized men. Tyler looked at me, a question in his eyes. I nodded. We were committed now. He pushed open the door and stepped inside, his weapon trained on Victor. I followed, staying slightly behind him. Let the girls go, Tyler said, his voice deadly calm. This is between us. Victor smiled that cold predator's smile. Is it? Because I think this is actually about Tessa. It's always been about Tessa. His eyes found mine. Hello, darling. Miss me? Let my niece go, I said, keeping my voice steady. She has nothing to do with this. She has everything to do with this. She's leverage, the same way Elena is leverage. Victor's hand tightened on Lily's shoulder, making her whimper. You see, I've realized something about you, Blackwood. You have a weakness. You care. About your sister. About Tessa. About doing the right thing. That makes you predictable. And you're a psychopath who kidnaps women, Tyler countered. That makes you irredeemable. Perhaps. But I'm also a businessman. I have clients waiting for merchandise. Elena here is already sold, actually. Shipping out tomorrow to a very interested party in Dubai. The others have buyers lined up. It's all very organized, very profitable. You're talking about human beings, I said, disgust making my voice shake, not merchandise. Semantics. Victor waved his hand dismissively, but I'm willing to make a deal. Tessa comes with me right now, and I let the others go. Your sister lives, Blackwood? The little girl lives. Everyone wins except Tessa. And let's be honest, she was always going to be mine eventually. No deal, Tyler said flatly. Then they all die. Starting with this one. Victor pulled out a gun, pressing it to Lily's temple. My niece's eyes went wide with terror, a sob escaping her throat. Wait! I stepped forward, my hands raised. Wait, I'll do it. I'll go with you. Just don't hurt her. Tessa, no. Tyler's voice held a warning, but I ignored it. Let Lily go. Let all of them go. I'll come willingly. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Me, without the fight? Victor's eyes glittered. Remove the gun from your boyfriend's hands first. Kick it toward me. Don't do this, Tyler growled. But I could see the calculation in his eyes, the acceptance that this might be the only way to save Lily, to save Elena. I reached for Tyler's weapon, and in that moment of distraction, everything happened at once. The door behind Victor exploded inward. Detective Donovan and a SWAT team poured through, weapons drawn. Victor spun, dragging Lily in front of him as a shield. Tyler moved, faster than I'd ever seen anyone move, closing the distance between us and Victor, Marcus and Sophia burst in from the corridor we'd used, securing the chained women. Victor fired. The shot went wild, hitting the ceiling and raining down concrete dust. Tyler tackled him, and they went down in a tangle of limbs. Lily scrambled away, and I caught her, pulling her close, shielding her body with mine. The fight was brutal and brief. Tyler had rage on his side, months of searching for his sister, of watching her suffer, of building this moment. He slammed Victor's head against the concrete floor once, twice, 3 times. Victor's gun skittered away, his nose shattered, blood spraying. "Tyler, stop," Detective Donovan's voice cut through the chaos. "We need him alive." Tyler paused, his fist raised for another blow, Victor's collar twisted in his grip. For a moment, I thought he'd ignore her, would beat Victor to death right there. Then he released him, stepping back, breathing hard. "He's all yours," Tyler said, his voice rough. Then he was moving toward Elena, dropping to his knees beside her, his hands shaking as he worked at her chains. "Elena." "God, Elena, I'm here. I've got you." Elena's eyes focused on him slowly, as if she was having trouble believing he was real. Then she crumpled against him, sobbing, and I had to look away from the rawness of their reunion. Lily clung to me, shaking. "Aunt Tessa." I was so scared. He grabbed me after school, said he was taking me to you, and then, "Shh, baby. I know. You're safe now. I've got you." Detective Donovan was reading Victor his rights, her voice crisp and professional as her team secured him. Other officers were helping the chained women, calling for medics, documenting the scene. It was over. Actually, over. 3 weeks later, I sat in Tyler's office, watching him work at his desk. Elena was upstairs, recovering slowly with the help of a therapist Tyler had hired. The other women had been returned to their families, their stories making headlines, Victor's network being systematically dismantled by law enforcement. "What happens now?" I asked. Tyler looked up, his gray eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. "What do you want to happen?" "You promised me a new identity, a fresh start somewhere Victor's people couldn't find me." "I did promise that." He stood, coming around the desk. "Do you still want it?" I thought about the past 3 weeks, about teaching Elena to paint again, helping her remember that beauty existed in the world, about Lily visiting, no longer terrified, laughing with Sophia about fashion and boys, about the women's shelter Tyler was funding, using his empire not to harm but to protect, about the man who'd stepped between me and a monster, who'd kept his promises, who looked at me like I was remarkable. "No," I said softly. "I don't think I do." Tyler's smile was brilliant, transforming his whole face. "Good. Because I wasn't going to let you go anyway. Controlling much? Only when it comes to you." He pulled me into his arms, and this time when he kissed me, it wasn't for show. It was real and sweet and full of promise. 6 months after that, I stood in a small chapel wearing a simple white dress, Tyler's ring on my finger, surrounded by the people we'd saved and the family we'd built. Elena stood beside me as my maid of honor, Lily as a bridesmaid. Sophia and Marcus and the rest of Tyler's team filled the pews, along with my students from the community center. Detective Donovan attended too, now a friend after the weeks of testimony and trials that had put Victor away for life. "You ready for this?" Tyler asked, looking impossibly handsome in his dark suit, his eyes full of love and mischief. To marry a crime boss turned protector? To spend my life in the shadows helping victims while teaching art to kids? To be remarkable? I smiled. "Yeah, I'm ready." "Mrs. Blackwood," he murmured, testing out the name. "Professor Morgan Blackwood," I corrected. "I'm keeping my name for work." His laugh was warm and genuine. I wouldn't have it any other way. As we exchanged vows, I thought about the night I'd stumbled into Midnight Echo, terrified and desperate. I'd been running from a monster and had found a man who would help me slay it, who would stand with me in the darkness and help me find the light. Sometimes the shadows weren't where the monsters lived. Sometimes they were where the heroes hid, waiting for someone worth fighting for. And I had found mine.